Home Assistant 2023.11 is out, so let's take a look at what's new. This is the 2023.11 release, and this is the Home Assistant blog where they talk about everything that they do or have done in this release. Very nice write-up. I'm going to go through it quickly and cover the high points. The first thing I want to talk about is to-do lists. There are a lot of to-do lists updates here. And of course, a to-do list represents a list of tasks, and the state is the amount of uncompleted tasks that are still open. You can create one or more fully local to-do lists and view and manage and select them by the new to-do list item in the sidebar. So if you look over here on the sidebar, you have a to-do list thing here. Now, if you don't have to-do lists over here on the sidebar, what you need to do is go over to integrations, click on add integration down here on the bottom right, and then you would search for to-do, and you would create a local to-do list, and you can add it here. You have to create one in order for it to show up. Once you do that, you can go back over to the sidebar, and you can do to-do lists or add lists this way by creating the lists. So I've got 2 or 3 lists here. Of course, here's the shopping list. Now, the shopping list has been converted into a to-do list. So if you had the shopping list running in your system already, then that has automatically been converted to a to-do list and put into your to-do list section of your thing, or your Home Assistant instance. So we can just add stuff on here. Milk, cookies, beers, and for those of you that like that, wines. And you can just keep adding to it. Of course, as you add or you check them off, they just go to the bottom here, the check off area or checked items area, and you can clear them off by doing that. Standard to-do lists. So that's fun. But what you can do with the to-do list, and I'll show you one of the things that I want to do with to-do lists, is you can now automate these to-do lists. I'm going to create a new automation. And of course, you can always see that down here, create automation. Create a new automation, and I'm sure there's going to be dozens of blueprints that pop up because people are probably doing all kinds of fun stuff with this. I'm going to add a trigger. I'm going to call it a time trigger. And at 12 o'clock a.m. every day, I'm going to, you can add conditions, by the way. You can do different days of the week or whatever. But I'm going to do this every day. I'm going to add an action. And I'm going to call a service. So call service. And now you can act on these to-do lists. So there's a to-do list, add item, to-do list remove item, and to-do list update item. Now, if you do an update item and you have multiple items in your to-do list that are the same name, it will update the first one in that list and not the rest of them. So keep that in mind. And I really hope you cannot hear my vacuum cleaner running. My robot vacuum cleaner is doing its job right now, so hopefully that's not too bad in the background. All right, so I'm going to click on add an item. I'm going to choose an entity, and that will be, let's just say, chores, and the item name will be empty dishwasher. And I'm going to add a second item, another call for service. That's going to be, again, to-do list, add item. And I'm going to add the same entity, and then we will add empty dryer or hang clothes. Let's call it hang clothes. And then we're going to save that. And we're going to give it a name, add chores daily. Save it. And now every day at midnight, these chores will get added to that to-do list. And you can look at the to-do list over here and see, again, that will be on here every day at 12. And I've verified this. It works great. So that's one way you can do it. And what that does for me is it allows me to add kids' chores every day, things that they would normally do on a regular basis. And you can add conditions. So if you don't want them doing chores on certain days, you can do that. Typical automation stuff. But the point is you can now automate these to-do lists and add things to them. You can also do things like if you have a grocery or shopping list and you have these things in your shopping list, let's put milk back on here. If you have milk in your shopping list and you're driving by the dairy or you get close to an area, you can automate this to alert you or send you an alert when you're in the area of the grocery store or the dairy or wherever you go to get your supplies. and then it will notify you you've got something in your shopping list and you can act on that. So all kinds of cool stuff you can do with these to-do lists. Some of the things you can also do are, let me see what else we talk about here. As I mentioned, shopping lists or to-do lists now. You can also add your Todoist and your Google Tasks to your Home Assistant list as well. And if you want to get a demonstration of that, since I'm not running either one of those right now, I don't have those integrated, watch the Home Assistant release party, and they go into some detail on how this works. When you add to the to-do list for Google Task, for example, if you add it from Home Assistant, it immediately shows up in the Google Task because it's pushed out there. Whenever you add it to Google Tasks, it will take a little bit of time for it to show up in your to-do list in Home Assistant because it's not an immediate one-for-one thing. They do polling to prevent overuse of the API calls and all that. So just keep that in mind when you're using these integrations, that they will be instantaneous one way and they will be less than instantaneous the other direction. All right, so that brings all the to-do lists in one place, and it allows you to automate them. Let me see if I missed anything on here. There is a card you can add, the to-do or the to-do list card. Here's a shopping list card. Let me add another one. So I'll edit the dashboard, add a card, which you can see over here. And then I will look for the to-do card, to-do list card. And then you can choose whichever card you want to add. M chores, for example. And you can theme it and all that stuff. And then you can save it. And then now you have a card over here. And you can I move it? Yeah. Anyway, you can add these up. You can format your dashboard however you want a dashboard. So now you have a card where you can edit these devices, or you can act on these devices directly from a screen in your dashboard if you want to. And for me, this is nice because when it adds those chores in here, make bed, empty dishwasher, on the tablet that the kids have access to, they can come over here and they can check these things off when they're done. And then that way I know they've done their chores. That way they know they've done their chores. And there's no fighting over how much stuff is left for them to do and all that jazz, right? Also saves paper because sometimes they'll write the chores on paper and we got to cross them off and write a new paper and all that. So environmentally friendly, or as we like to call it in Home Assistant, sustainable or sustainability. Okay, that is the to-do list, I believe. Let me just make sure there's nothing I missed. Excellent. That's one of the big things here in this release. Now we have Matter 1.2 is here. So if you're doing the Matter stuff, there is Matter 1.2 available in Home Assistant. However, the devices that are 1.2 compliant out in the industry, in the market, aren't there yet. They're getting there. One interesting fact that they note here is that Home Assistant is used as a test platform by many of the device manufacturers. So things will potentially be added to Home Assistant quicker than other places because this is where they're testing them. All right, so there's some customization on the tile cards. Let me go back over to my menu here. Here we have a tile card for my, or two tile cards, one for my guest lamp, and one for the environment. So let me edit the dashboard again. So let's just look at this card here. It is a tile card. It gives me the ability to add different content. And you can see that here, if I get rid of these things, let me just take them off. That will show things up here. So if you want to add last changed, color mode, color temperature, all of that. So I like to do the state. It's hard to see here, but I'll show you in a second. State. Let's do the color temperature. And let's do last change. And then you can drag these and move these in whatever order you want. So I want last change at the end. Maybe color temperature at the beginning. And now you can see that let me turn it on. The color temperature is 3041 Kelvin. The state is on because I have the state here, which is a duplicate of the light, so we can get rid of that. And then it was updated 26 seconds ago. In addition to that, you also have the features that were always available. You can add features such as brightness or color temperature to this particular entity, and it's entity dependent. So whatever entity you use here will determine what actually gets shown here for your features. So that's the lamp part. Then you can also do the same thing for Let me edit this card for like an environment. So again, under your appearance, you have all of these different content options: state, upper, lower, target temperatures, fan modes, current action, climate modes, equipment running, all of that kind of thing. And you can put those all on here. So right now I have current temperature. I have current humidity at 48%. My preset is away mode. Target temperature is 67 degrees. It was last changed 19 hours ago. Interesting. And the equipment running is blank because this particular device isn't exposing that right now. But you could move this all around, like I said. Put your current temperature, current humidity here, then your current temperature, target temperature, all of that. So you can move that all around. And then again, you have the features where you can add all these different features, HVAC modes, which is these right here. You also have your preset mode and your target temperature. So you can adjust these things. You can change your preset mode and you can adjust your target temperature this way as well. So those are the tile card updates. And that's all mentioned here. State or show any of the entity's state, any of its attributes, or a combination of both. It works for climate entities, but all of them. So like I said, you could use the brightness of a light or even a battery level sensor. So if you wanted to add a card that has a battery level to it, let's just do that quickly. I'm going to go ahead and add another card. That is the tile card here. And I'm going to look for anything that says the word battery in it. So let's get rid of this battery. So let's go with the backdoor lock battery level. Again, appearance here gives you the option to show any content last changed, which is always nice because I never know when the battery levels actually update on some of these devices. So it's nice to see that this shows that. At least that's when the lock was last changed. I don't know if that's actually when the battery level was updated. And then, of course, you've got features here. No features available, but you can show this particular state content, which is the battery or the last changed, and then the state, 60%. So now I have a card on here that shows me my battery level. 16 minutes ago was at 60%. So again, that's nice for those different entities that you can use these tile cards for. Energy range. I don't have a lot of energy stuff going on here. Unfortunately, when I moved, I haven't got some of my stuff put back in. I'm not fortunate to have enough or have solar here, so I don't have any of these things going on. But I can still show you that you have the ability to select a date range for your entity stuff, and it'll show it here. Again, look at the blog post for more information on that, since I don't have that. New conditions in the conditional card. So I have a conditional card over here. Let me go back to where I was before. And you can't actually see it here because the conditions have hidden the card, but I do have a conditional card, and it's actually two of them. So if I look at edit these conditional cards, I have the ability to set a numeric state as well as other conditions. So here are your conditions. Entity state screen, which allows you to choose which screen size you want the card to be visible on. So if you only want it on mobile, you would choose mobile. Or mobile and tablet, you would only choose that. So you can choose the screen size that the card is displayed on, or screen type. And you can actually set the specific size as well. And then you can also set the user. So if you only want the card to display when certain users are on or in here, then you can do that as well. So that's a conditional card. For the numeric value on this one, I only show it when it's above 66 or below 90. It's a test I'm doing here. And so this card, when I am done editing, actually goes away. And this is a good point. When you're editing these entities on hidden cards or conditional cards, the cards will show while you're in the edit mode. So if you're in the edit mode up here, you will see the card, because if you set the condition to where the card goes away, then you can't edit the card anymore. So it only makes sense, right? So as you're playing with this, if your conditions don't seem like they're working, get out of edit mode and see if the card disappears or appears, however you're going to do that. And that will tell you whether or not it's working properly. And then I have another conditional card here that is a state. So if the state is equal to playing, I want to show the Roku or media player on the dashboard. If it's not playing, I don't want to see it. So that's another conditional card. And again, these two will disappear when I get out of edit mode. because their conditions are not met. Oh, and one other thing to note about that is on these conditions, the card will show when all conditions are fulfilled. So if you have multiple conditions on here, all of those conditions have to be fulfilled in order for that condition card to display. So we covered the condition cards, user condition, that's who's available or who is logged in will determine who gets to see the card. That was hard to say. And then numeric state condition, screen condition, all of this stuff has been added. You can now also restart in safe mode. It will disable all custom integrations and custom front-end resources, so all the custom cards and themes. So if you have some sort of issue with Home Assistant and want to quickly rule out any of that custom stuff, you can restart in safe mode, and it will do that. So let's see, if I go to, get out of here, settings, go to safe mode, or go to restart, and then advanced options, I can restart Home Assistant in safe mode here, and then I can determine what might be causing the problem for troubleshooting. I don't have these things. These are set up Improv devices directly in or from Home Assistant. If you have any of these things, and this is Improv Wi-Fi. Improv is a free and open standard with ready-made SDKs that offer great user experience. So you power on the device, you click, the client application uses the Improv to send Wi-Fi credentials to the device, connects to the Wi-Fi network, and then you visit the URL to continue setting up the device. It now can also be used over Bluetooth Low Energy or via the serial port. Both protocols can also be used from a browser. So the demonstration that they showed in the settings here is they plugged in like one of these little jobs right here. Like this has Bluetooth, I think, in it, or one of these Atom Matrix things. Plugged it into just power, and with that, it determined that it was on the network, and Home Assistant immediately found it and put it in its integration. You can then configure it that way, and then once it's configured and set up, then you can add it to your Home Assistant setup. So there's all of that. It's open standard, it can be freely adopted and implemented by any hardware creator, no matter how big or small. It's also supported by ESP Home and is a big component of ESP Home and getting those devices into Home Assistant. This is another one where I don't have a good feel for demonstrating it, so I'll just talk about it briefly. You now can add fields. Fields allow you to define variables in your script that you can pass in when calling your script as a service. For example, you could create a script that sends a notification to a specific person and use a field to define the message you want to send. So it also supports our UI selectors, and under this, UI selectors are things that specify what values are accepted for a blueprint or, in this case, a script. It also defines how the input is shown in the user interface. And here's a bunch of different selectors and things you can do. So you can do that as well. And this is only available when you created scripts in YAML, but now thanks to Carwasps, you can now configure your script fields in the UI, and it looks something like this. Here's your script field. So in this case, it's a message. Field variable name is message, and then your selector would be this, and your default, you can set a default and all that. So here it is. So if you're interested in that, play around with that. Other noteworthy changes: HomeKit Bridge handles changes in capabilities of devices and removal and addition of devices automatically. The two-pane thing you see in the to-do list has also been added to the calendar dashboard. ZHA will raise a repair issue if it finds out the network settings have changed. So if you're messing around with Zigbee a lot and you're moving between devices or moving between coordinators, this will help you do that, help you get back up and running after it detects changes in the network or anything else. Country selectors and all of this other stuff. New integrations, Google Tasks allow you to bring in your Google Tasks to your to-do list. You'll have to do the whole API stuff like you did for the Nest integration. I have bunches of videos on the Nest integration and how the Google API stuff worked then. So you can look at those to do that. Improve BLE, always improve BLE. It seems like every release there's more Bluetooth. And then some other stuff that has been added as virtual integrations And then these Fitbit and random can be set up from the UI. Breaking changes, there's always read these. Always read these. I always say that. I will just talk about Z-Wave for just a moment here to wrap this video up. You'll need to update your Z-Wave JS server instance. You must use Z-Wave JS server 1.33.0 or greater. So I'm using the Z-Wave JS UI add-on, so I need at least 2.2.3. So let me talk about that a moment. So typically when I do these upgrades, I don't really have much issue with Z-Wave. Things just continue to work. However, I have a GD00 something -7 garage door opener by Nortec Controls, and it has started to have an issue where it doesn't update. It doesn't update the state of the barrier or the door unless I refresh the screen in the UI, in the Z-Wave UI. That's not helpful to me because I need to know the state of the door. So the point is, when you're doing upgrades in Home Assistant, make sure that you have a rollback option. That means before you do an upgrade like this to 2023.11 in this case, make sure you have a full backup of your Home Assistant instance. It's easy to do. All you have to do is go into your backups. Yeah, backups. I automate my backups, but you can create a backup, and I would create a full backup and let that run because you need to be able to come back and fix whatever issues. And the reason that's important is that I upgraded to 2023.11 and then upgraded Z-Wave JS because it's a requirement. Well, the problem is I can't downgrade my Z-Wave version to the one that was working with my garage door opener before because it won't work with the new version of Home Assistant. So that's why it's important you take a complete backup. If you ever need to restore anything, you can actually go into either the individual restores like this, or in this case, you can take a backup and you can restore Home Assistant parts and then specific pieces here. So if you do a full backup, you have the option to restore all of your add-ons and all of the configurations. So just make sure you do a full backup, and then you can choose what you want to restore if you need to. All right, that's going to do it for me on this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope this was helpful to you in understanding the newest version of Home Assistant and what they've added to it. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments down below. Hit me up on Discord, and we will see you on the next video.